you're teaching a course that involves coding and you're still switching between RStudio and some slides, maybe on LaTeX or PowerPoint, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, but there's a better way. There is a better way. The main thing that I'm going to show you today is how to build slides that involve code chunks where you can actually live code in them. So I'm not talking just static R code that is maybe highlighted or formatted nicely. I'm talking about having a virtual environment in your slides that students can open and play around with R code, run it, look at output, edit the code. It's amazing. Okay, I could go on. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a very bare bones kind of web page to host all of these slides using live-revealjs slides with a few extensions to allow you to have live coding. Some prerequisites for this, okay? You need to have RStudio downloaded and you need to connect RStudio with a GitHub account. If you haven't done that before, I will link some notes below. Should be relatively straightforward to connect. Just pause the video here, do those steps, and then come right back. So let's get to it. All right, to start, we are going to open RStudio. This is where we're going to write, we'll call it code, but really it's almost like an R Markdown file that we're going to create to make this kind of website that's going to host these slides. So what I typically do is I make an R project for every course that I'm teaching that exists in some organization. So maybe it's UBC statistics, and then my course is a repository within that organization. Here, I'm just going to host everything on my personal webpage. That's totally fine. If you want more organization, then coordinate with your colleagues and see if that's something they're interested in. First things first, we are going to go to File, Create a New Project. You can start in a new or existing directory, doesn't matter. I'll just start in a new one. And I'm clicking Quarto website because as I alluded to before, we're going to be hosting these on a Quarto website. Your directory name should be something to do with the course or the workshop that you're running. So I'm going to call this, we'll just call it Stat 1000, which is not a course at UBC. And I can just leave this on my desktop. You can put it in wherever you want. Just if you're using OneDrive, sometimes I find that if you save our projects in OneDrive, there's a syncing issue. So I typically just leave them in like a repositories folder on my desktop or something. Make sure that create a Git repository is checked off and then click create project. So what's going to show up is actually this sort of template website. So we have something called index.qmd. QMD stands for a Quarto document. I think it's Quarto Markdown document, I assume. It looks pretty similar to our Markdown. So we have a little bit of R code here. You can add subheaders. We have a link there. We have R code. We have a title. So the other important thing that we have is this YAML file. So this tells us how to build a website. I have more information on this on my Quarto website building video, which I will also link. But for now, we're just going to leave everything pretty basic and only change what we need to. So if you can navigate to that _quarto.yml file, you can also find it on the right-hand side here. Just move myself up a little bit. Right here, I'm going to add under type website, I'm going to put output dir docs. This is going to say when I build this website, send everything to this output, spelled that wrong, output directory, and it's going to be a folder called docs. This makes it easier for the build when we send things to GitHub pages. So just save that. You can go to File Save, or you can click Command S, Control S, whatever you'd like. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is go to our terminal here. There is this thing called Jekyll, Jekyll, and it is to my understanding, a template that GitHub Pages likes to use. We actually want to disable it, so I'm going to just type touch.nojekyll. I believe this works for Windows or Mac. You can try it out. And what it's going to do is under the hood create this file called .nojekyll, and it's just a text file called .nojekyll. And when GitHub sees it, it's going to be like, okay, you want me to disable this feature. Staying in that terminal, let's actually render our website. So we're going to build our website. I haven't actually changed anything much, but let's just see what this template website looks like. So if I do Quarto render, It's going to walk through my files, and then it's going to create that docs folder. And now if nothing pops up, you can go back to your index file or this about page, whatever you want, click that render button, and something should pop up. I will move it over here. Something will pop up. That looks like a website. So this is my Stat 1000. I have a home page and an about page, which I will probably end up deleting. I have a header, all of the information that I have put up. So really, really simple website build there. We will make this a little bit more appropriate for a website that's going to just host slides. Now we're kind of ready to just send this to GitHub Pages and see what happens. So right now this website only exists locally on my laptop. If I go to the website, it's just at localhost. I want to actually host this on GitHub. So in the console, we're going to use the package, use this. So if you don't have that installed, whoops, it's called use this. If you don't have that installed, feel free to install it. And then use library use this to load it in. From here, we are going to initialize Git. The easiest way, I think, is to just call the function use_Git. All it's going to do is say, okay, well, now I'm going to start tracking things with Git. Here are the files. Is it okay to commit them? Click whatever one means yes. They're kind of cheeky. Sometimes it will say, yep, absolutely, yes, whatever. So Git is now set up. I have my files will be tracked on this Git pane as well. And I like to just use the function use_GitHub. So what this is going to do is, because I already have everything connected to GitHub, I am going to create a repository called Stat 1000 in my personal GitHub repositories, and everything will be available on there. So you can see it created this. That's my GitHub username /stat 1000. And if I go to GitHub, well, actually this pops up for me. I will see that I now have a GitHub repository called Stat 1000 with all those files that I updated. Now we're actually ready to set up the GitHub pages. You really only have to do this once. From this point on, anytime that I push changes, they will show up on the actual website. Click that settings button with the gear icon, and we are going to go down to pages on the left-hand side. We are going to build our page from a branch. So we don't need to click anything else, but we are going to select our branch. I'm just working on main right now. And we're going to change from the root folder to that docs folder that earlier we told Quarto to send all the website information to. Once you click save, that's pretty much it. Things are going to start moving. So it's going to take a couple of minutes to load, but you can just refresh this page or check the status on your main repository page, but in a few minutes, something will change on this website. Okay, after a couple of refreshes, I saw that this popped up. So it said your site is now live at my GitHub username.github.io/stat1000. I can click on this link and I can now see that this website is live. So anyone on the internet can go to this website and look at my content. That is what I would post on, say, Canvas or Quarkus, whatever you use. And I put a link to the slides instead of just uploading a bunch of PDFs. I could say, okay, all the slides and all the course information is going to be live here. As a demonstration, I have another website that I actually post all of my content on as well. So I have the syllabi, it's a 2-part course. I have a schedule which links to the course content, has YouTube videos in it. Some of them have slides in them. I have my assignments listed. So I like to keep everything on one website, but it's totally up to you what you want to do with it. So I do have this website called whatever /stat1000. Let's get slide crafting now. Okay, so right now we just have this website. There's a couple things I'm going to remove. I don't really need this about page. I can add that in later if I want. I'm just going to delete it from here, and I'm listing it under the navigation bar, which I don't need. I just want a home. You can look at my website building video if you want to get a little bit more fancy. But for now, I'm just going to be working on this index page. So I'm going to delete all of this and say, here are the course slides. And I'm eventually just going to list links that when a student clicks it, say lecture 1, that lecture 1 slide will show up. What I like to do is to have my slides in a separate folder. So I'm going to have a folder named slides or lectures or something like that. I can make that just by clicking this folder icon. And now in my project, I have this folder called slides. Open that, and in here, all I'm going to do is create Quarto documents. So these slides are actually written just like a Quarto or R Markdown or a Markdown document. They're just going to have a different type to them. So let's create a new Quarto document. I'm going to call this lecture1.qmd, which again exists in my slides folder. And I spelled that wrong, but we can rename it. We can rename it quickly. Okay. Lecture1.qmd. I'm going to rename the title Lecture 1. We'll say it's Intro to R. If I were to render this right now, it's just going to look like a web page. Let's see what it looks like. Right now, it is just a blank web page. If I were to write text, it would just kind of all go down and I'd be scrolling and stuff. Not really what I want for a lecture. So instead, I'm going to change my format to this live-revealjs. Reveal.js, I can show you, is a built-in format for Quarto. I'll just add some information. Just so you can see exactly how this works. So my first level headers are going to be like these big section titles. And then if I use those 2 hashtags to make a second level header, those are going to be individual slides. So let's see what this looks like if I were to render it. So with the Reveal.js template, I'm actually now going to have these slides, which I can click through. So I have my title. This is a level 1 header, Intro to R. Maybe I want a section header that's like really big and bold. Then I have a slide header with some text and another slide header with some text. And again, you can write these exactly as you would our Markdown. So here's a list. Here's another list item. Often I write bullet points for my slides. It's a little bit easier to digest. Okay, so as I render it, I can just look at how things change. Really great if you want a simple slide, but we want to zhuzh it up a little bit and allow ourselves to do some coding in here. This involves installing a very simple extension, so I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that. In the terminal, we are going to write Quarto add. This means I'm adding an extension. rwasm/quarto-live. This is, if you spell it right, going to allow you to use an extension that someone wrote that involves this thing called WebR, which is a existing live coding thing, but it allows it to just work really nicely with our Reveal.js format. So here, I'm going to click enter. It's going to ask, do you trust the authors? Yes. Can I make some changes? Yes. Do you want to view the documentation? You can if you want. I've used this enough that I'm going to click no. If you click yes, it's just going to pop up in your browser. Super easy. Okay, you will notice now if you go to the root of your folder, you will have a folder called extensions, rwasm, live, and then a bunch of stuff that is going to allow you to use this extension. It's as easy as that, okay? Let's go back to our slide. So now, in our lecture 1 slides, instead of using the format Reveal.js, I'm going to use the format live-revealjs. And I need to add one more thing. I'm going to change the engine to knitr. Then before I have my actual course content, I'm going to add include and then the path to this file. So my extensions folder is one level outside of my slides folder. So I'm going to say go back a folder, go into extensions, and into eventually the _knitr.qmd file. So now when I render this, nothing will really look that different, but I'm going to have some increased capability of adding live code. So literally nothing has changed in this. That's totally fine. But now I'll show you how you can actually add a code block that is editable. Okay, so here, just under the first slide, whatever, here is we'll call it a WebR code block that students and you can code in. How we make this is we do 3 backticks. Usually we do like R, and we'd have some R code in there. The only change here is you are going to use WebR. Type some R code in, and we'll see what happens. The one annoying thing is if you click play, that play button to run the code, it doesn't run very well with WebR. So if you want to test stuff out, I'd recommend using the R just to make sure things are, as you want them. Then change the block to WebR, save everything, and then render it. So let's see what this looks like. Same thing as before, I have these kind of 2 first level headers, but now I have this super cool code block. So when you first get to the slide, it is just code, okay? I can click the run code button, boom, the output appears, it's amazing. The coolest part about this though, because you can obviously just show code and, whatever. I can edit this live. I can rerun it. I can delete code. I can use all those base R functions. That's totally fine. And maybe your students are like, I went too far. I messed everything up. There's the start over button, and it's going to show them exactly what they started with. What I really love to do is provide students with scaffolding. So maybe I'm making a ggplot. I will start them with some lines of code, remove some things, put ... for them to fill out. They can always go back to that template if they've gone too far. They can run the code, practice it. It is really, really, really nice, in my opinion. So that's super cool. You can also access different packages. So I could say library, ggplot2. I'll just do a blank ggplot because I'm lazy and I don't want to write the code. But WebR is smart. It will download the package. You can always just click it again and it will erase. But you can use different packages like ggplot. Maybe that's a little bit more of an interesting code block. So I will show you exactly what I might do if I was giving a ggplot lecture. I might say, okay, here's an exercise. Let's plot. I might say, let's plot, create a scatter plot where miles per gallon is on the x-axis and horsepower is on the y-axis. So here, I'm giving students this scaffolding. Just get it over here, go to that slide. So they're seeing these ... things. If they were to run this code, of course, they're going to get an error because R doesn't know what it's doing. Maybe they're saying, okay, well, on the x-axis, I want miles per gallon, and on the y-axis, I want horsepower. Great. Maybe some students go too far and they're adding these like random things going on, I don't know, and they need to start over, they can do so. So it's a really, really great tool for facilitating active learning in your classroom. Okay, so how do we actually get these slides on the website in a nice place where the students can open them? It's actually really, really easy, which is the great part. So I'm going to save my slides. Lecture 1, it's a live-revealjs. There's other things you can do. You can make the text smaller, Not going to go into this. This is just the very, very basics. Let's head back to that index.qmd. I'm just going to make a bulleted list full of links that link to those lectures. So I'm going to say for lecture 1, students can go to, let's see if I can do this without looking, slides/lecture 1 .qmd. And we'll save that. Let's render the whole website together. So Quarto render, can't talk and type. Do Quarto render. And then I'll just click the render button on this index page and see what it looks like. So here, my stat100, which was going to be my GitHub username /github.io/stat1000. If I click lecture 1, boom, the slides. You can see the packages are all downloading. The students don't have to download anything. They can run this code right away. It's going to do this every time that you download a package. You can download them in advance. I'll show you how to do this. But they could fill in their R code here and just go through the lecture. It's great. So that is how I like to just list my slides. And then eventually I'd have lecture 2, which will also exist in my slides folder. Same thing. I'm going to do slides/lecture2.qmd, for example. Okay, let's render that again. It's just good habit if you're going to push anything to GitHub, just render it, give it a kind of all over render before you do that. And then let's push all the changes to GitHub so they can show up on my website. So my commit message, I'm probably going to say add it lecture 1. Okay. These changes are not going to be super instantaneous. I'll go to GitHub and show you what I mean. It takes a little bit of time for these builds to happen under the hood. So here is what I'm looking at. I'm seeing that I have some different updates to my files, but the website itself is actually pending. So I had 2 successful checks. The last one is going through. Once I see that final green check mark, that means that everything's good to go and my website has actually been updated. Okay, so I see that 3rd check mark. Even if I refresh this, I'm going to see a check mark here, success. I can go back to my web page. I can't remember what I called it. I can go back to that pages and get that link, but of course you can just give your students that link. My GitHub username .github.io/stat1000. If I click on lecture 1, great, let's see if I can actually code in this. So I want miles per gallon on the x-axis and horsepower, HP, on the right, or on the y-axis. And I do have that warning message. I can suppress those. But yeah, I'm actually able to play with this code. Maybe I want to look at y being the number of cylinders or something like that. That's as simple as it gets. It's really, really great. Now the one, I don't want to say it's annoying, but the one thing that I haven't quite completely got a good workaround for is that students want to come back and see their work. They want to take notes, they want to save their code, but anytime that I refresh this, it's going to go away. What I recommend students to do is just after they've, written their code at the end of the lecture, I just recommend them saving this as a PDF. So they can just click print and print this as a PDF. The code as they wrote it is going to show up. There are also some other workarounds that I've found thanks to the help of generative AI, because it's been really hard to figure out how to do this, but saving this in their history so that anytime they come back to this website, this just kind of appears, which is nice. So maybe I'll make another video about that someday, but for now, just know that when students come back to these lectures, their notes and everything are going to be gone. Speaking of notes, I'll show you one last thing. This video is getting a little bit long. I like to provide students with a way to save everything all in one go. So they have code. A lot of the times, if you're talking, students want to be able to jot down notes. So I will show you exactly how I do that. On most of my slides, what I like to add is a editable text box. So I'll paste the code here. Really all you need is content editable equals true. I have a style with a border. It's just like a black box around it that is 0.1 points wide. It's solid black, has a little bit of padding around it. You can play with the font size. So I usually provide this at the bottom of my slides, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. So instead of just having code or just having text, I have this box that students can take notes on. So notes, maybe they want to write geom_point, will actually plot the scatter plot. So they can take notes like that, along with, of course, editing the code. So when they save their notes or they print them out, we have some code, they can take notes, and when they print this, then they're going to have everything from that lecture all together. Sometimes this is my kind of issue with it, sometimes it does sort of cut off onto different pages, but all the information is at least there and you can play around with your options. But it's really nice to give students the option to take notes directly in the slides. There are a couple of other weird things with larger packages to be aware of. So big packages like Tidyverse, sometimes you'll actually want to download them before the lecture, like within them. So what I like to do is include this in my preamble. You can tell WebR what packages to download and where to get them from. So it's just taking the latest package from that R-Wasm WebR package. So when I render these, you don't have to like install the packages or anything. It does it for the students, but you will see it is going to download the package before. So when you're just, getting started with your lecture, it might take a minute, but you won't have to worry. You're going to have access to all those Tidyverse functions right away. So maybe instead of this, I want to do, whoops. So it's just going to allow them to have all those Tidyverse functions without calling library or installing the packages and things like that. So just keep in mind for bigger packages, it might be useful to add that package in the preamble. I also prefer smaller text, so I often use the smaller true in the preamble. So I'm saying for live-revealjs, use smaller text. You can see there's a little bit of difference when you render it. It just makes things fit a little bit better onto the page in terms of the actual text. Headers and stuff will pretty much remain the same size, I think. I keep saying this is the last thing, but I have one more thing, because often you want to use data when you are demoing something. So we can do that. It's really, really easy. So anytime that you want to include a data set that isn't part of an R package or something like empty cars or the Palmer Penguins data set, you can include it as a resource. So under live-revealjs, you're going to type resources, and it's going to be a link to, maybe if your data is stored in a CSV. I'm going to create a folder called data, and I'm just going to save this Gapminder data as a CSV. So within my slides here, I will create a folder called data, and I'll just save the CSV. Okay, so I have saved this CSV file in the data folder that is in my slides folder. So I'm saying resources, I'm going to use data/gapminder.csv. So now I can actually access this. So I can create just make another WebR chunk. Okay, so let's just make some code that reads in as a CSV using the read_CSV tidyverse version of read CSV, and just output whatever the object is. So just Gapminder here. Okay, we'll render this. Okay, so I see here, once everything is loaded, I should be able to run my code. Oops, I spelled it wrong. I'll fix that in my source code, just because students, of course, would be like, wait, what do you mean I can't? It doesn't work. But yeah, now you have access to that data. You can do whatever you want to it. Okay, so there's a lot that you can do, a lot that you can do with this, but I feel like those are kind of the foundational tools that I would say I use the most. If you run into errors, I think that tools like Claude are really helpful for helping you debug this, especially if you're not really a website builder person like I am. There's a lot of learning with this, but I think it is one of the best skills that I learned over my first year of teaching. So if you do have questions, you can leave them in the comments. I will try my best. But this is definitely something that I'm also still exploring. But yeah, I hope this sets you up with a little bit more confidence if you want to try building more interactive slides and lectures. So please do let me know if you use them. And as always, take care, and I'll see you at the next video.